Hi there, Hamish McLaughlin here, and a big thanks for watching The Last Time I Cried, brought to you by AIA Vitality. In this episode, the Tigers skipper, Trent Cotchin, talks about the uncertainty and fear surrounding the birth of his third child, the burden and weight and feeling of anxiousness during his early days as Richmond captain, and learning to become comfortable not having all of the answers. Cotch, when was the last time you cried?
Yeah, in the delivery suite, but it wasn't the one that I was used to, with Harper and Mackenzie. Brooke was rushed in to have an emergency C-section, which I knew deep down that she really didn't want. And I suppose once the obstetrician makes the call, given it's an emergency, everything happens really quickly, and I just found myself completely rattled. I was meant to be the sign of strength, but I knew that it wasn't exactly what Brooke wanted, and you know, the health of her and the baby, they're absolutely A1 and the most important thing. But you know, getting rushed down to theatre, I must have looked white because the nurse came up to me and she was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, I might just need a minute. So they put me out in the waiting room, which was the worst place I could have gone, and I just sat in this dingy little room, staring at the ceiling, going, why am I out here? I'm not the one on the table about to go through probably one of the more challenging things in my life, even though you're numbed up and so forth. So I headed back into theatre. But then, you know, to watch all of our talented medical staff get to work and pull out a healthy baby and then realise that it was a boy over the sheet that hides all the gruesome stuff. You know, that was, I don't even know what came out of me then. It was tears of joy. It was the rawest of emotions. I was so proud of Brooke. Probably wasn't aware of what was about to come with regards to recovery time, and you don't realise the significance until you start to go through it. But yeah, that was a hard time, but it was an amazingly special time.
So you get to understand how much you love your wife and how fragile everything is at that point, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, they cut through something like 32 layers of tissue and muscle and tendons, and you know, and that's pretty significant. Particularly on the back of going through a 9-month journey of carrying the baby, and you know, us as men not really doing or contributing much other than the initial part of the process. But then they have the baby, then they've got to recover, they've still got to breastfeed, they've got to look after 2 other kids. You know, I take my hat off to all women, not just my own wife.
Tears of despair, tears of joy, all within an hour.
Yeah, fair to say, we were pretty exhausted after a couple of days in hospital.
Had you always hidden your emotions prior? Like, I'm a crier, and I really don't care who I cry in front of. I don't know quite why, but I reckon that's relatively rare.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely, it's rare. It's I think I've only seen my dad cry maybe twice in his life, and it was probably something I was a bit like of. But I think once you have kids, you know, first and foremost, the moment that your child is born, you know, wedding, children, and then obviously significant moments in your life.
You guys went on a journey together. Ben Crowe became a big part of that journey, and there were 3 things you guys all shared: the hero, the highlight, and the hardship. Did almost to a man and a woman, tears get shed by the teller amongst each other when you guys started talking about your lives from an emotional sense?
Yeah, 100% they did. Some of the stories that, you know, you value a friendship or a relationship that you have in the footy club, and then to hear some of the backstories of the people that you spend every day with that you have no awareness of was really special. And not only did the storyteller shed a tear, it was, you know, it brings up emotions in every person. You know, hearing Brandon's story about, you know, growing up in the commission flats and so forth, like, to really start to understand how everyone's different, but how beautiful that is to actually bring it together and celebrate in each other's journey was quite unique and very special.
Why do you reckon we all, or most of us, struggle? Your old man, do you think he doesn't want to cry? Or do you think he feels ashamed to cry?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't think it's shame. I think it's probably like most of us, we've been taught that tears are a sign of weakness. But in reality, and now reflecting on my life to date, it's actually probably a sign of beauty. Because whether it's a challenging time in your life or something that's amazing that's happened, the challenging time, typically your greatest growth comes from them. And obviously the really joyful times are just the pinnacle of what we all want to experience at different stages throughout. But life is a genuine roller coaster.
Has it helped your marriage?
It has, yeah. But like everyone, we have our own challenges throughout. 3 kids under 5. At times it can be hard work, but it's also the most rewarding gig that you can possibly have.
The act of crying itself, what do you reckon it does to your body or mind that's so rejuvenating?
Oh, it's an amazing emotional release. Nowadays, you can sit there and think about, whether it's your kids or, even just the journey of what we've been on at the footy club. I can well up at the thought of just what life means to me.
And do you live a freer life knowing that you don't have to have the answers?
Yeah, absolutely. If we all had the answers, then it wouldn't be much fun, would it?
But you were feeling that in 2016, weren't you?
Absolutely. And I needed to have the answers. I needed to have them right now. And if I didn't, no one could know that I didn't.
Spud and I were doing a podcast on SEN, and he started talking about his demons, his struggles. I started crying, which led to him crying. And sometimes when everyone just drops their guard, there's this closeness. And he and I then, as a result, spoke every week for the rest of his life, all because I'd started obviously being affected by what he was saying, but then telling him everything that had affected me. And there was just this, right, we're actually together now, ongoing.
Yeah. What's the permission, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you had that moment with anyone?
Probably the most recognised relationship that I have in the public eye and people that look like they come from totally different worlds is Dusty and I. And, some of the times and conversations that we've had about what we struggle with, you talk about purpose and your why, and the moment you don't focus on yourself and you focus on someone else is when you're at your absolute best. And it's amazing how rewarding and fulfilling that can be when you do pick up on or help someone, realise their potential or find something new about themselves, or just kick a goal,
Has it worked both ways with you guys?
100%. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of why Dusty, loves spending time with me as well, because he knows just how much he can help me. The reality is we look like 2 totally different people, and we've had totally different upbringings, but we share the same struggles every day, and we help each other through them.
Have you found yourselves in a moment where you've just been in tears together?
There's certainly been quite a few moments where the emotions are high, yeah. And both at low times in our lives, but also, we've shared some amazing experiences together from a winning point of view. But I think the conversations I cherish most are the ones that are hardest, and the ones where you find out more about the other person, but also yourself.
Is there anyone now that you wouldn't feel comfortable crying in front of?
No. No, there isn't.
And if I asked you that 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, probably mostly the footy public, because I need to be a sign of strength, not weakness. But I am what I am, and I am who I am. and I don't really care what anyone thinks.